This late spring rain has been the cherry on top for our reservoirs, which are nearly full after the historic winter. Now look at the change in Lake Oroville after years of drought. And statewide reservoir levels are 5% higher than their historic average for this time of year. In fact, Shasta Lake is almost completely full. So Wilson Walker has made a few trips, just a few. How many? Enough up there. He started back in October, and you just got back again from this, and you really saw the difference from start to here we are now. Yeah. Full, almost full.
Well, we know it's been a great winter, and if you want to measure the success, I guess, of this winter, the state's largest reservoir is a good way to do it. As of right now, Shasta about 3 feet away from full, and that's a foot higher than where it was when I was up there on Monday and Tuesday. So it really is a complete comeback in a matter of months. And yes, some people had absolute faith that this was coming.
Oh, okay. Do you need the wire cutters?
It is feeding time on Shasta Lake, the last feeding before these fish will be released.
Here, Scott, I'm going to toss this in and hand this to you. Trying to. Oh, that's why I couldn't. We just want to put these fish in here and let them get big.
That's because the lake is now expecting a flood of people looking to catch fish after the very big winter.
Oh, wonderful winter. Liquid assets.
For Harold Jones and his Sugarloaf Cottages, rooms have already filled up with the lake. Last time we were here was back in mid-January after the first round of storms gave Shasta an initial jolt.
Oh, another stretch like that, and my docks will be sitting right up here, right in front of the cabins.
That conversation in January?
About 3/4 of the way across the channel.
But perhaps even more impressive was Harold's optimism back in October when the lake was at 30% capacity.
One good winter and the water will be pretty much back up to where those trees here are.
You kind of saw this one coming.
I did. And, you know, people always say it's going to take a long time to fill this lake, and all it takes is one good winter, and this obviously shows that it can be done.
Back in January, we showed you the Charlie Creek Bridge up here in Lakehead. This is where they had to throw a second layer on top of the bridge before they flooded the lake. And now you can see why they needed it. This is a perfect illustration of how the lake is maxing out. So you might be wondering, what do they do now?
We're looking to match our outflow with the inflow over the next week. We have room to maneuver. Flows are not that high in the Sacramento right now, and we'll be tracking that and making adjustments to operations as necessary.
The Bureau of Reclamation is now increasing releases to balance the lake at full. And a full lake, of course, is great news for the entire state, everyone from valley farmers to customers in the Contra Costa Water District.
This bodes incredibly well for California water supplies in general. It also bodes very well for the fish species that rely on the cold water pool that we release out of Shasta through the summer for those endangered fish species. So great news all around.
It's just staggering the size of this lake and to see that much water has come in with the storms this year. But yeah, amazing. It's going to be an amazing year up here.
On the recreation side of things, drought is about the biggest challenge they can face here.
COVID didn't seem to bother us as much as a low lake.
So nothing is better publicity than the views drivers are now getting from I-5, and that is already creating more phone calls, more reservations, and a lot of optimism about the summer ahead.
It's going to be good for everyone. After a couple of years of low water, we all need to have a good year under our belts.
All right, wow. I've been watching the lake go up and down. I checked today with Harold for 8 years now.
Yes.
It's been a lot of fun, and I've learned a lot from him. Harold, thank you. You know, the first couple set of storms we got early in the winter, kind of Bay Area, Central Coast, if I have that right, Darren. It was the second half of the winter where those storm systems seemed to move further north. You look at the Shasta level, it was March and April when that lake really took off.
It's amazing. My daughter goes to the University of Oregon, so we passed by there when it was low. We did that special on parched, California parched, and then you see it now and it's just full, and you know there's gonna be a lot of houseboats this summertime.
Big time.
Yeah, that's where I learned how to water ski.
They must have had some water.
Way back when. Okay, let's take a closer look at where the state's biggest reservoirs stand. Shasta is at 116% of average. Lake Oroville is 119%. Folsom Lake and Lake Sonoma also above 100%. One notable exception, Wilson's telling us, is Trinity Lake at just under 50%. So now you actually have gone there as well, correct?
Yeah. Trinity is an interesting story. Why is it lower? And why is it the one reservoir that hasn't had the big payoff from this winter? It's an interesting question, and the answer kind of depends on who you ask.
Oh, sure.
Frankly,
right.
it is a complicated thing. You can take a look now. You can see it still kind of looks like drought up there a little bit. Now, Trinity works differently. This lake is fed largely by snowpack that you can see sitting up there in the mountains. So they get some payoff later in the winter. How much that's going to turn into, that's sort of a matter of discussion. But if you ask the people on the lake, the gentleman that runs that marina right there, they feel like they've missed a tremendous opportunity to refill Trinity. The Bureau of Reclamation, which manages that lake, says there's more to it, that there's some other complexities that people maybe not are aware of. We're going to have more on Trinity next week.
Oh, I appreciate that. And thanks to all of your friends that you've made up there over the months. All right, Wilson, thank you. Let's bring in meteorologist Darren Peck with some more perspective on the snowpack right now and also looking ahead to more wet weather.
Yeah.
Hey.
It's tough to beat the visuals of the drones over Shasta Lake from Wilson's story to really see how high that lake is. But I just want to add a little more perspective on that. Here's Shasta Lake filling the rain gauge as our visual example. Where would average be for this time of year? Right about here. Where are we? We're up here. So we're at about 116% of average. But the number that really grabs the attention is that one. 98% of capacity, meaning that's it. This thing is pretty much filled up to the brim. You only leave a reservoir virtually completely filled like that if you have a high degree of confidence that there's not going to be a huge amount of water coming. And here's how they're able to do that. I can show you the forecast for inflows into Shasta Lake. I know the bars look weird. The taller the bar, obviously, the more water coming in. Look at the trend. And that takes us all the way through June. When we did this last week, we were looking at Tulare Lake in the southern Sierra. Those numbers are going to go up over the next few months, and they're very concerned about managing those reservoirs for inflows for floods. They're not here for Shasta, which is why they can keep that thing so full. There's more rain falling up there now.